right, welcome back. Nice Friday. We have a great opportunity talk some sports and some nutrition with our special guest today. We'll introduce in a second. I'm here with Coach D, fresh off a victory yesterday in their first football game. So good things there. Congratulations on that, Coach.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. That's the way to start off the season. Um, we're it's always
We'll take it.
Things are always better with a win.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're going to talk some sports today. We're start talk a little bit of nutrition with our guest today, Madison Troyer. She was cross country runner in college. Really heavy in the nutrition area. She works with one of our past guests, Wendy, right? And so we're excited to talk to her about that. She was with Southern Methodist, SMU, TCU. She was with the University of Miami. She's been at quite a few places and really kind of really got herself in the industry with some really great experience, and now is advising athletes all over the country on their nutrition needs. So it's great to have you on, Madison.
Great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Talk about your kind of your athletic career. How you got into nutrition and what was kind of some decision making process with that, and some of the things with your own experiences as well.
Yeah, and also Coach D, congrats on the win. That's amazing.
Thanks. We'll take it.
Listen, so
we'll take
it.
Yes, that's awesome. Thank you.
But I'm so excited to talk to your guys' guests right now, especially going into the fall season. Sports are starting up, football is starting. So I hope I can give your audience some good nutrition tips going forward. But kind of about my background. So I was a multi-sport athlete, as many of us were growing up. But I specifically played volleyball and lacrosse in the North. I'm from Delaware. And I was getting recruited by local schools for volleyball, but being in Delaware, kind of wanted to get away from the North. So decided to move to Florida and join the cross country team there at Palm Beach Atlantic University. And I've always been interested about nutrition. So kind of why I got into sports nutrition. I've always been interested as an athlete, elite athlete. That was something I heard growing up. But really I heard the messages of like smaller is faster, smaller is better. And so that diet culture, was Googling, didn't really have the nutrition resources back then. And so I go into college as a cross country runner. And, I am just finding things on the internet, not really understanding what exactly I needed. We had no dietitian at the college to talk to. And so, I was running and I was losing weight because they said smaller is faster. And so my first year, I'm hitting PRs, winning races. It's great. And then the second year comes around and I'm getting injured one after another, stress fractures, pulled muscles, injuries, not racing as much. And I was like, what's going on? Like, I think I'm eating well. And so come to find out, I was under fueling, wasn't actually fueling for the races well. I wasn't doing any pre-fuel, post-fuel, had no idea what I was doing. And so that's why I was like, I saw that with my other teammates as well. And so I decided, I wanted to get into nutrition, learn more about it because I saw how much it impacts us as athletes. And so I got my graduate degree at University of North Carolina, fell into the sports nutrition program at UNC, worked with the sports dietitian, Kelsey Gomes. And that's what kind of got me my foot in the door in the sports nutrition world, was working with her at UNC, working with the football team, field hockey team, lacrosse team. And so, and it just, I got so passionate about it because I just saw this need. Everyone needs nutrition, not just athletes, but also athletes need it so much more to fuel their performance. And me, seeing the cost of not fueling well and having to end my cross-country career early as a result of it, I don't want other athletes to fall into that trap. And, we want long-term success as athletes, especially in football. We want them to play in the league for a long period of time. It's so important that our athletes are understanding how impacting nutrition is for their long-term health.
There's no doubt about it. Nutrition is one of the most important things that, but it's something that's not understood.
Mm-hmm.
And even when it is understood, cravings and other things kind of take over on that as well, right? So, very, very difficult topic for athletes because you get athletes that are disciplined and do a great job with it, and then you have athletes that want to be disciplined but can't be are just not.
Yeah.
And then you have some athletes that don't buy into it at all, right? So, which is a problem for them long term. Talk about the industry as a whole. There's so much information.
Mm-hmm.
It's very overwhelming for coaches and athletes. And you try to decipher through it, and this person says this, and this person says that. As a sports dietitian, like, what are some of the things that you really fundamentally try to stick to that's important that you think the athletes, should be taken care of?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Well, I just think it's important to spread the awareness of why. I think talking to these athletes, we are sometimes known as the food police, and they don't understand why we're like policing their
that.
food.
I like that.
Yeah, and so I think like sitting down with them and educating them on the why and how it's going to impact them, not just in the present, but like long-term future and their performance, and it's going to just make them better. And I think that's the hard part about these adolescent athletes is like genetics is running the game at that time, and they're able to handle things that maybe 10 years later they're not able to handle as much anymore. And so really trying to educate those adolescent athletes that nutrition can be that competitive edge for them now. They don't have to wait until 10 years later when it's starting to have more of an effect on them. They're starting to realize that effect more often as the older they get, but really hitting them early and helping them understand the importance of it, and helping them understand that one day they're not going to be able to sustain what they're doing in the right now, the fast food, the eating 2 meals a day. And, when they get in the league, that's not going to sustain them.
There's no doubt about it. As far as so what athletes do you work with mostly? Do you work with college athletes or work with what are the different age ranges that you're working with?
Yeah, so majority of my background is college, specifically football. So I, for 7 years, have worked in collegiate sports and majority football, but have also worked with all ranges of athletes. I was the director of nutrition at SMU, worked with all the sports, but specifically Coach Lashley was the offensive coordinator at Miami when I was at Miami. And so when he got the head job at SMU, he brought me with him to be the football dietitian. And so I spent the last 3 seasons at SMU fueling the football team, but all the other athletes as well. So I just joined Nutrition with Wendy, which has been such a blessing because I've always had a heart for high school. I can see it from the perspective of being in college for so long, of like seeing these high schoolers come to college and have to like switch their mind like that. And it's so hard for them. And I just think like, man, if we started earlier, they would be so much more successful coming in. And now with like how college football is changing, it's becoming more high pressure. I got last season, I just had this heart, like, I really want to help the high schoolers because I just see such a need for that age group, because college, we have such a wide range of sports dietitians in college now, which has been amazing. Because when I started out in the field seven years ago, there wasn't that many college sports dietitians, and that's grown, which is amazing. But now high school is the place that they need more dietitians. So that's why I joined Nutrition with Wendy, and I want to work with all athletes. Everyone can benefit from nutrition, like I've said already. So So I've been working with adolescents for the last few months, and it's been amazing.
Yeah, I think that's a great point too, right, Dave? Like you see that too. It's the trickle down effect. We see it with recruiting, right? Because transfer mentoring used to be like not a thing. Now then it was a college. Now it's a college thing now, but now you see it in high school. Strength and conditioning used to be like, hey, we're in college. Now we got to work out. Now it's trickling down to high schools. I mean, look, I've seen some high schools now at least bring in a dietitian, like maybe in preseason camp, to talk to not only the athletes, but mom and dad as well about this is what you kind of, to the best of your ability. Because we know, obviously, at home situations kind of dictate that a little bit, or, some of those things, but you need to kind of be fueling your athlete, this way. So I can 100% see where you saw the need, especially, becoming freshman, when you're talking about, hey, you're coming off the field and here's the shake that you're having, or, hey, in the middle of practice, like, guys, it's snack time right now. So here's your bar, here's your this, like those types of things for an adolescent now coming into the college world. Like, not only is that a whole change lifestyle wise, like now the nutrition is included in that because mom and dad aren't preparing your meals, right? Or, hey, you only get 3 meals with team, but then you have to kind of do some of this stuff on your own. So to kind of reach out to or to kind of focus on that point of it, I think is extremely important, especially when it comes to football, because football is just so different in the structure of how you play games and practice and things of that nature. Like, you're constantly working the whole week to get to one day for 3 hours. Like, that is the focal point. Whereas a lot of these other sports, you have a game every other night. And, I just feel like it's different in the regiment of how things go. Is that something you can talk about, right? When it comes to that, like the structure of how it would be with your high school athletes, just in terms of, the weekly preparation. Everybody talks about, hey, we start hydrating on this day, right? But that's only one piece of it. Can you touch on that a little bit, Madison, in terms of the structure of how it would be, for a high school football player?
Yeah. And I want to say, like, that's why our one-on-one coaching in high school is so beneficial, because when they get to college, they're not going to get that one-on-one time. I can just say that right now, as being the director of sports nutrition in college, I'm having to work with 125 plus athletes. I don't have that time to spend one-on-one coaching with you. And so high schoolers really need that one-on-one time before they get to college to help, build them up before they get there. And so talking about the structure. So for their week of workouts is what you mean, or working with me specifically?
Yeah. No, like kind of like the week of a workout. Like, all right, it's Monday, we're playing Friday night. What do I need to be doing daily? Or even like if you took a day of the week, right? Like a random Wednesday, like, okay, I'm going to wake up and I should be putting this, and this is how we should hit it.
Yeah, well, one, I think you need to be practicing every day what you're going to be doing on game day. So kind of looking back, so if you have a game on Friday night, then Thursday, you need to be focusing on eating quality food and hydrating. So the night before that game, Thursday night, not eating fast food, high inflammatory foods, junk food, high sugar, those things are going to not help your body recover and be ready to play. Right. I say get on the battlefield, because that's what football games are. You're basically getting on a battlefield. And so we want to make sure our body is fully recovered and ready to go for battle. And so that day before is super crucial. Hydrating, making sure we're hydrating, and eating high quality foods, not high fast foods. But talking about the whole, school day, I know our student athletes are so busy. If they're going into training at 5:30 a.m. and then having to go straight to class, then we need to be preparing ahead of time. I always say we need to prepare and then repair. And so preparing the day before, look at your schedule. Okay, I know I need to go to this workout at 5:30 a.m. I have to wake up at this time. I need to have a good quality carbohydrate before I get into that weight room. And so that could look as simple as a sports drink and an applesauce. It doesn't have to be crazy. You don't have to have a full meal going into an early morning workout. But that's another thing, working with a dietitian, trying to figure out what works specifically for you, because nutrition is so individualized and personalized to the person. Some people can handle more than others. And then making sure we're preparing ahead as well. Okay, after I get done at 6:30, I got to get to school at 7. What can I pack to have in that 30-minute window to, prepare or repair after that workout? So protein in a carb, protein shake, granola bar, something that's going to give them good quality carbs and protein post. And then they need to be making sure they're packing snacks in their backpack. So you should not be leaving the house. I always say you should not be leaving the house for school without your books and your homework. First of all, you're a student first and then an athlete, but then your water bottle, your breakfast, post and pre-fuel. So that's why I say prepare. We need to think ahead. And so having snacks in your backpack, like Uncrustables are great. Different types of protein bars, carbohydrates like fruit are great, bananas, apples. And then having, whether you're packing lunch or in the cafeteria getting lunch, I actually, with one of my athletes had to create a cafeteria guide because they were going to lunch at school and they were like, I don't know what to eat. I don't know what's good for me. If I'm practicing in the afternoon, I go into the cafeteria and I see pizza and cookies. Like, what are some things I should be getting from the cafeteria? And so that's another thing we do at Nutrition with Wendy is we even look up the menus at the school and are like, okay, let me create a guide for you. These are the types of options you should be picking so that when you go into that afternoon practice, you're not feeling heavy, lethargic. You're not having that sugar rush during the day and crashing in your 1 p.m., 2 p.m. class and sleeping and the teacher's mad at you. So making sure we're packing quality snacks, eating consistently throughout the day is huge. If you have a busy schedule, have things in your locker that you can grab in between classes as you're grabbing your books, those types of things. You just need to think ahead.
I think that's a big part of the process. Planning is one of the hardest things that kids may not do as good a job with. And how do you get their mindset to think about the things that they need to do? And is there like an action plan that you try to give them or things like that help to get them on that path?
Yeah, I love that you asked that question because we understand at Nutrition with Wendy that these student athletes are incredibly busy. They have so much on their mind. With film and plays and just like the stress of school and they have a test or an exam. So we want to take the guesswork. That's what we do is we take the guesswork out and we just help implement, little ideas, habits. Because I've noticed that a lot of athletes don't do good on their nutrition because they have decision fatigue and they're like, I just don't know. I don't know where to start. And I don't even know, I know I have issues, but I just honestly have decision fatigue and I don't know where to start. And so really we keep it simple in the beginning. So we're not going to give them, an hour-long sit down of everything they need to change at one time. That's going to overwhelm them. That's going to cause anxiety. So really, we talk through what are they currently doing? And then what is their long-term goal and where are the gaps currently? And so how can we fill those gaps simply? And so, for example, if they sit down and they tell me I want to gain weight, okay, talk me through what you eat in a day. Oh, I don't eat anything until I get to lunch. And then I have a candy bar and then I go to practice. And then I have a McDonald's Big Mac and then I go to bed. And I'm like, okay, so let's start with how can we get some food during the day at breakfast? Oh, well, I wake up, I roll out of bed, I go straight to school. I don't have time. I can't eat in classes. Okay, so can we wake up 20 minutes earlier? Can we have something in the fridge already prepared? It can be as simple, or even if they say oh, I'm not hungry in the morning. Okay, can we drink something with calories just to make sure we're getting some calories in the morning? So it's really just getting them to start thinking of okay, what are little things that I can start doing that are going to benefit me in the long term? And we really start with little habits that we then build on over time. It's not going to be overnight. It's a process. Nutrition is a process. We all want a shortcut, but that's just not the reality of it. We want to build healthy habits and get these athletes to start thinking for themselves too and taking responsibility. I think, we need to talk to them about hey, do you want to go to the league? Or, what are your goals in your in the sport. And if you're serious about those goals, you need to start putting in the work. And we all have to do things that we don't want to do sometimes. Like, let's be honest, we didn't get to where we are by doing everything that we wanted to do. We had to work hard and we had to be disciplined and take responsibility. And so I think like ingraining those disciplines in high school at a young age is so important, because it's not just about nutrition. It's just like the rest of their life. That's what they're going to have to do. So
Yes.
I think that's a very important thing. We talked about where, like, what are you looking to accomplish? Because I think athletes have a hard time. They're always taking instruction on everything, and that decision fatigue, I think, is a real thing. They're just like, oh, everything I have to do has to be structured, right? And that's the minute that they dive in for something that they shouldn't dive in for, right? So is like when you meet with somebody, so you meet with a high school kid, and you guys, like, what are kind of some of the steps that you go through to first to see if they're ready to handle it, and second to start moving them in the right direction?
Yeah, I think, definitely seeing their readiness level, that is super important, because I can't force food down their throat, or I can't force them to change. And that has been an issue, even in college. I've seen that. Like, I've tried to sit down, and you can't hold the athlete's hand, because one day you're not going to be sitting next to them and they're going to have to make those decisions themselves. And so really just talking with them, and I think it's important to build that relationship first. Rapport is so important with these athletes. They have to trust you before you can make any changes. And so really getting to understand their family life, what are the things they've learned from their parents, and what are their goals, and why are they doing what they're doing? So why do they want to, maybe they want to get to the league or be professional, to be able to fund their family and provide money for their family, and kind of just tapping into that personal life of theirs, and like the motivation behind what they do and why they love what they do. And so then helping them understand, okay, how nutrition can help them get there. And so how it all works together, it's all intertwined. And so, if you want to be healthy and provide for your family one day, then like you need to be healthy for yourself. And so really just helping them get to that ready stage, because that's super important. First step, getting them to trust me. And then, like I said before, just giving them small little doses of change and habits that they can start right now. It could be as simple as getting better sleep, changing one meal. Like maybe they go to fast food every single day after practice. Okay, let's meal prep, have something at home already in the fridge, instead of having fast food every single night. There's like little things that you can just start getting them to think about. I have had athletes for sure tell me, like, I'm not willing to do that. And so there comes a, you know what I mean? And
That must be fun. Yes.
Yeah. And, sometimes that's going to happen. They have to kind of get there themselves. Like
Right.
like I said, like we can't
Right.
force
Of course.
Yeah. And so it's continuously educating them, encouraging them to make the change. But then at the end of the day, we have to make them make those decisions. And one day they will find the importance of nutrition. It might not be that day, but one day they will get there.
Of course.
That's a great point. I think some of the things that get their eye, obviously, are what makes them faster, what makes them stronger. Those kind of things, like how does nutrition play into that, right? We're always athletes are always trying to figure that out in especially in the ball sports, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like how do you kind of get their attention with some of those things that what are some of those things that help them to get faster and stronger, like can support that element better than others?
Yeah. So, I mean, what I see is carbohydrates. We're not eating enough carbohydrates. So around training. So if you're training in the morning, not having any carbohydrates in your body, it's basically like trying to drive your car without any fuel in it. It's not gonna run. And so having quality carbohydrates before training, that's gonna give you the energy and the speed. Like that's gonna help build your speed. And then protein is so important. Like we need to be having protein consistently throughout the day, not just post-workout, not just 2 meals a day. If we want to build muscle mass, which every athlete should be wanting to build muscle mass, that's where, extra speed, power, strength, all that comes from is our muscle. And so if we're not giving our muscles the quality nutrients that it needs to recover every day, to be fully replenished and refueled every day, then we're going into the weight room, we're having a really hard workout, and then we're not going to benefit from it, because nutrition is really, it has to be paired with those strength workouts, those practices, in order for it to really be beneficial. So you can't just expect going into a weight room and destroy your muscles and then not replenish it well with nutrients and expect to get stronger. It just doesn't happen. So I just, would recommend for our athletes, they need to be eating consistent protein throughout the day. And so, that looks like so if your early morning workout, having that after your workout, having that at breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks. So not snacking on chips, not snacking on just candy. You need to have not just snacking on fruit too. That's another thing. Yes, fruit's great and amazing, but you need to be pairing it with the protein. It's also going to sustain your energy levels throughout the day. So I was just talking to an athlete and they were like, I don't know why I'm so tired all the time. 3 p.m. I literally just feel like I hit a wall. I'm super fatigued. I'm like, okay, well, what are the snacks that you're eating throughout the day? Chips and candy and fruit. And I'm like, okay, where's the protein? And they didn't even have breakfast that morning. So really having that protein, because also just so you guys know, muscle breaks down throughout the day. It's not just breaking down during that exercise. Our muscles are constantly turning over and wanting to rebuild and repair. And so having that protein, eating protein is the only thing that gets our muscles into that protein synthesis stage of building. And so if we go 5-6 hours without eating anything, we're going to be in that muscle breakdown stage. And so that's not what we want. That's when we start losing muscle. And so we need to be having that protein and carbs.
That's really, yeah. Protein seems to be a big. Now I talk with Wendy a lot about creatine, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I'm still, even though Wendy explained it very well to me, and I still am trying, because for example, my 10-year-old, after talking to Wendy, I would have never thought to do this, but I have my son taking a little bit of creatine, but I don't know exactly how much does a 10-year-old take, how much does a 15-year-old take, how much does an adult, because I take creatine for myself, how much does an adult take, what. And how important is creatine to the recovery? Because there's all kinds of things about creatine, and that's one that's always very, very confusing, because you'll read negative stuff too, right? So, talk a little bit about that if you can.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so creatine basically helps turn over ATP. So ATP is what our muscles use for energy. That is literally just standing here, walking. Anytime we're moving, we're using ATP to move. And so athletes, as they're exercising, are using ATP. And so ATP is built from creatine as well as glucose. And so we have 3 different processes in how we generate energy. And so the first process is called ATP creatine phosphorylate. And so that is the very first, so the first 3 to 7 seconds of exercise. So sprinters, power moves, quick weightlifting moves that are really short are using majority creatine for their energy source, because it's the most rapidly, it's basically the fastest our muscles can convert into ATP. The second fastest is the glucose or carbohydrates. So that's why we are so hitting hard on carbohydrates before exercise, because it's the second fastest, converts to energy in our muscles. And so, but really when it comes to sprinter, really any athlete, because the first 3 to 5 seconds you're using creatine. So the more creatine you have in your muscles, the more rapid energy you're producing. And so any weightlifter, power movements, sprinter, those types of things can be beneficial, but it also benefits the brain. And so our brain also uses creatine for energy and to think, and it also helps with recovery. And so I see all the time people taking creatine for gaining weight. And, that has been kind of something taboo. Like, yes, it's going to increase your muscle mass over time. But I've noticed, like, in my collegiate years that athletes were like going straight to the creatine to gain weight. And really you're gaining water weight because creatine draws water into the muscles. It doesn't cause cramping, which is another big thing. That's a myth. And so it draws water into the muscle. So you're going to have water weight, but you're not necessarily gaining weight if you're not eating calories too. So it's really important to have that foundation of food first. And creatine is a great supplement for all athletes, all individuals, but it shouldn't be the foundation. And regarding age-wise, so 5 grams maintenance dose has really been like the most studied. That has not had any side effects or anything for all ages. Adolescents, I know Wendy has a blog posted on adolescent young athletes on creatine specifically. I think it might be 3 to 5 grams for younger athletes, right, and then 5 to 7 grams as you get older into adulthood. And there is, research on the saturating, for a week or so of like higher doses of 20 grams. But the problem with that is since creatine draws water into the muscles, it draws water away from the GI tract, so your stomach. And so it causes a lot of like cramping or nausea if we do those higher dosages sometimes. So I've just noticed with my athletes, they don't really care for those higher dosages. Really staying with that 5 gram maintenance dose has been really beneficial.
That's a great point. So it's really interesting because I can't remember who it was now. I believe it was a tennis player. Oh no, it might have been even it was a golfer. Who says he's taking like 50, like he takes between 10 and 15 grams of creatine. And like that he needs that in order to sustain muscle and build muscle and be able to be explosive for what he does. And I thought that was really interesting because that's so much higher than what you've seen for most athletes at the even athletes in football and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it was interesting that they stated that that's what he takes. I can't remember who it was. You probably could find it. Because if it came across my feed, it probably comes across all yours at some point. But these feeds, these algorithms are tailored. They're all like, you're all on tracks on these algorithms based off of like somehow me and Art see the same thing every single day. Almost the same thing,
But also like creatine is also in meat. So like, you shouldn't be you really don't need 10 to 15 grams if you're eating meat, 3-4 times a day too, because you're already getting that naturally. And so it's just like an extra dose. But our vegan athletes, if they're not getting that creatine in meat, they might need a higher dose. So it's all personalized as well, like I said.
Yeah. Right. And I think that's a great point too. You got to understand something, like you have to feel out what one works for you to get you at your optimal set, whatever it is. Right. And that's, I think, a piece of it too. It's not cookie cutter. Like that's the generalization. Like even a cookie cutter method is better than nothing. Really get the most of it. You have to dive into this yourself to know who you are as an athlete, what works, how your body's functioning, those things. Because for example, like I was never a breakfast person. I didn't like just waking up, eating something like a big meal and just feeling full right away in the morning. So it was more of just grab something small or something liquid and then move on from there. But that's how you adjust it, right? Like that's not the optimal way to do it, but it still worked out because it worked for me, or it was just how I needed to function, or what it is. That's where I think a lot of parents, student athletes need to dive into themselves and kind of look at it from that perspective, that what your buddy is doing might not be what you need to be doing, or might not be how your body responds. So to really put that under the microscope is really where, our student athletes and their parents, for the most part, or, as a college athlete yourself, you need to go and talk to those people, or look, there's enough research out there and things that you can go find. You know what I'm saying? Like we talked in the pre-show, like Wendy, like you guys and Wendy yourself, like you guys post so much free stuff that, you know, you can go and get a good foundational, you know, structure just by looking at those things. But you have to want to do that. Like you said, some people, like, it's not in their, they just, you know, but that's what separates, you know, higher level athletes from guys that are just there to do it, is they take that next step, or they go and talk to somebody one-on-one to do it. Like, that's what will separate you.
Yeah. And I think, like, that's why the one-on-one coaching is just so beneficial for our athletes, because like we said in the beginning, there's so much nutrition out there. And even just like on our page, there's so much information. So I can understand how someone can look at it and be like, I don't even know where to start. And so that's why, like, we want to help take all the guesswork, and we want to help simplify it to the individual. Because like you said, like, you know, something that we say might work for somebody, but it might be not work for you. And so I can say, for example, as a cross country runner, I could not eat in the morning before my runs. All my teammates could have a bar or a banana, and I just like couldn't do it. And so I've worked with so many athletes like that, who they struggle with GI distress. They struggle with, you know, not being able to have things heavy on their stomach. And we start small, like you said. And then we can build from there. It's about training your gut too. And so that's like another process that we do with our athletes. Another thing, I work with so many picky eaters. So I just, adolescent athletes are just, you know, they're pickier in what they eat. And so, but really what I found is, like, they're not actually picky. They just don't know where to start. And so I was working with an athlete who couldn't eat anything other than chicken tenders and French fries and chocolate milk, which chocolate milk, great. I'm glad we had the chocolate milk. But I mean, I just started giving her ideas. Have you ever tried this? Or have you ever, like, you know, thought of this? And she would be like, no. And she would try, and she'd be like, I loved it. Like, this actually worked. Like, I feel great. And like, over time, we got her eating a whole variety of different foods, and she has been hitting PRs. She feels so much more recovered. We hit her hydration goal, and she never knew how much water she should be drinking. So she didn't realize how dehydrated she was. And so that's what we love to do. Like, you know, she had been following our page for 3 years, but didn't understand how to implement it for herself. And so that's what we want to do. We want to give you information, but you know, you also need the help of, how do I implement that information for me personally?
Right. Well, that's a very difficult part. Is it's funny you say, like, you know, chocolate milk and
love it.
And then they eat the French fries, right? Like, chocolate's great for recovery after a workout. French fries, not so much, right? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's interesting how they don't, they kind of just lump everything. There's some things that taste good that are good for them. There's some things that taste good that are probably going to work against them. Does you know, you talked about carbohydrates, is the importance of it. Like, you read so much stuff about, like, with carbohydrates, like, being like a negative, like it gets them like fat, and, you know, talk about, like, where it's important, where there's an overuse of it, and is there any kind of like bad carbohydrates when with athletes?
Yes. Okay. Great question. So there's two types of carbs. There's complex carbs, which are whole grains, fruits, and vegetables that are rich in fiber, nutrients, vitamins, and minerals. So I like to call those meal carbs. And then we have our simple carbs, which are more of our, like, high sugar, fast digesting, things like refined bread and candy and donuts and those types of things. And so those simple sugars should only be making about 10% of your diet. So those simple sugars should really only be around training, because that's when we need those simple, like, fast digesting, not heavy on the stomach, types of carbohydrates, but they should not be the majority of your diet. So if you're eating white bread at every single meal, that really isn't, you should be doing whole grain, whole wheat bread, because that's higher fiber, higher nutrients, vitamins, and minerals that you're not getting in the white bread. And so there are carbs that are more beneficial than others. So fruit is going to be more beneficial than Skittles. But there is a time for everything. So, like, I'm just going to say, for example, when I was on the sidelines with the football team, the fiber in fruit, sometimes they couldn't do that in between plays. So they sit on the bench for a minute or two and they had to go back out. So I would give them Skittles because that's literally super fast digesting going into their bloodstream. But that's not something that like throughout the day I would be just providing Skittles and candy. It's really timing matters and like what's going to benefit their body and their performance at that time. So 90% of your diet should be fruits, vegetables, and whole grains like quinoa, brown rice, whole wheat breads, whole wheat pasta, instead of that refined white pasta, white bread, those types of things. Just because of the nutrients, the fiber, like, you're getting more iron and B12, B vitamins, and those types of foods, fruits and vegetables, antioxidants that you're just not getting in like fruit juice and donuts and Skittles and that type of stuff.
It's very it's very interesting. It's very hard to. There's different times when you need different things, right? And sometimes they need that quick burst energy and in a game, and then you get that sugar in. I mean, where does like Gatorade? Okay, this Gatorade, it's everywhere, and then we talked a little bit about this with Wendy, but not crazy in depth. But Gatorade versus water. Gatorade has all these, like, I mean, I know they're trying to get rid of all that stuff, but from Congress, but Gatorade has like all the red dye stuff in it and all those other things, right? Are there hydration drinks that are good? Are you better off with stuff like liquid IV or whatever, those kind of things? What versus like a Gatorade or versus water? Well, where does this all kind of fall in?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think it's important to keep in mind, like, we don't really want to demonize any foods. Like, yes, I think red dyes like that, there's a lot of research coming out. And, but I do think sugar is an issue in our adolescent athletes because they are drinking it, not just around performance, they're drinking it all day. I mean, I worked with an athlete and he was drinking 10 to 12 sports drinks, like Powerades a day, and was wondering why he was having like, all these like, I mean, even just like ADHD and these like,
right.
those things are also affected by sugar intake. And so, and his weight was so much higher, his fat mass. And so, switching to low sugar Powerade like throughout the day instead of the high sugar. But really, to answer your question, I think sports drinks are important for athletes during performance. So it's all about timing. And so sometimes we need more carbohydrates to replenish our muscles. And so those Powerades are good sources of carbs and sodium and potassium and magnesium that we need to keep from cramping in hot, humid weather when we're, practicing for 2-3 hours. But you shouldn't be sitting at home watching TV, pounding a Powerade because you're not doing anything and you don't really need that sugar or energy. And so context matters. But liquid IV, drip drop, Pedialyte is something I've used with my athletes. Pedialyte has been great, especially the liter jugs for my bigger athletes who might lose 7 pounds of sweat at practice. They need to be replenishing that loss. And so, and then LMNT we use a lot, for our heavy salt sweaters. So again, I'm going to keep saying this because it is individualized. Like, some people are saltier sweaters than others. And so, for example, like I'll go on a run and I'll get sweat in my eye and it'll burn. And like, there's so much sodium in my sweat that it burns my cuts and stuff. So I know I'm a salty sweater. So I use LMNT because it's a higher sodium electrolyte. But someone who doesn't have that, doesn't, experience that, might need a lower sodium, electrolyte replenishment. So it is, trying to figure out what, specifically they need. But it is known that about average 500 to 1,000 milligrams of sodium are lost in every liter of sweat. So I've worked with athletes to see how many pounds of sweat they lose during practice, and then can kind of give them a prescription based off of that average of how much they're losing each day at practice and how they should be replenishing those losses.
Very interesting. Wow. Alimenti, I just looked it up. I didn't even know what that was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I know what Liquid IV is because I have a Costco membership, so I see them there. But I can't tell you how many times I've taken Liquid IV after like a super hot practice, and all of a sudden I
Oh,
start
hell
cramping.
yeah. Absolutely. So listen, I think that's one of the most underrated things too, is like talking about all the players like staying hydrated and whatever. Like your coaching staff needs to be like, I have really like kind of put that on the focal point for this year. Not only one is it, good for me to stay hydrated during practice, because I never drank during practice, especially as a
Yep, I'm the same way.
but now, like you look at it now, like it's a good example for your players, right? Like, guys, like I'm hydrating, you know what I'm saying? Like, live what you kind of preach. And, it's just been a big part to where now, like, who's ever carrying around a little 6-pack of water is like, good, like, you need one? I'm like, yep, good job, guys. Like, we got this down to its science now. And I feel it because, especially you're talking like guys coming right out of camp right now. Look, like we opened up last night. There wasn't one guy on our side of the field that had a cramp. Like, it wasn't even a thought process. It was really good. Other team can't say the same, because I'm pretty sure, midway through that third quarter, here it was. And then before you know it, they probably had 4 or 5 guys that were down with cramps throughout some point of the game. And that was like a difference, right? Because it was a focal point. So absolutely 100%. Like I have definitely taken it into, look, we talk about it all the time that we never drink during practice when we're coaching. We're too busy doing whatever. But look, they got a water break. You get a water break. Like just grab a quick swig and go. It's so pivotal.
Yes, for sure. I've seen that when I was working with football and I would be at practices, the coaches would be sweating more than the athletes. Like they would be drenched by the end of it. So I totally, I agree for sure.
Yeah, you're moving a lot, and you're probably not in the same physical condition that they are. So
not even close, buddy. Not even close.
Another part of it. But yeah, it's there's no doubt about it. Is water, like during the game, is water good to have, or you really need to have the electrolytes, or is it? I always find this so interesting because like you have people that are just like water. And I'm just telling me as an athlete, water never did nothing for me. Like as far as like hydration, like if in the game I had to have something that back then it was Gatorade or Powerade, but now you have like I was looking up this LMNT and you have the Liquid IV, those things go, like you could take a heavier dose if you need to, and that like gets it back into your bloodstream pretty quickly, and in a short order you're pretty much back, versus where water I find if it works it takes an extremely long time to hydrate you to where you can perform.
Yeah. Well, you might have been a saltier sweater than some people then too.
Yeah,
and it is just individualized, but water is still very pivotal, like for hydration and even during a game, because if you have too much sugar and too much salt in your body and you don't actually need that much, it can cause GI distress. So it's really having that balance for you. Because, I've seen like athletes throwing up on the sidelines because they drank too much of the electrolytes, or they had a pickle juice plus Gatorade plus a Gator Light or something. And, they overloaded themselves with sodium. And now their stomach is cramping and they're nauseous and they throw up. So water is also very pivotal to keep that balance. And so we're not having that GI issue. But it just really depends on the person. It's just figuring out what works.
Do you measure the people? Like, how do you find out what each individual needs? You measure things, or?
Yeah, we do. We have done urine analysis just to see going in, where they already are hydrated wise. If they're overly, dehydrated or overly hydrated, because that is a problem too. Like they drink too much water, and now they need extra sodium. But it's honestly trial and error. So during the summer season is really when being at summer practices and workouts, I kind of see like, okay, this person is a heavier sweater. Let me talk to them about their cramping history and what they're currently drinking and how many pounds they're losing per practice. And then I can kind of formulate a plan specifically for them. But if I notice in the summertime, like this person is prone to cramping or has a history of cramping, I need to sit down with them. I need to talk to them about their hydration and what we can do moving forward, because we really want to make that plan before game day even gets here. And that's something I pride myself in, is like at games, we haven't had like pretty much any cramping unless someone didn't follow my protocol.
Right.
And so like, you need to have that plan in place for sure before that game day.
Yeah, I think that's critical. A lot of kids lose way too much time in cramping.
Way too much.
Now, me and Derek have had on. I think Wendy knew him, Tony Holler, right or no?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think she was. I don't know. At this point, freak everybody.
Yeah, I know.
Tony. If not, he's gonna. If anything, he's gonna come up in your algorithm now.
Yeah.
So, so is there a? I'll just kind of really quickly get to the point of my question, which is really Tony talks a lot about CNS activation, right, with sprinting and explosive stuff, and how utilizing sprinting and not doing like these long conditioning things and stuff like that prepares the central nervous system better to be able to perform without getting the level of cramps per se. Now me, when me and Derek listen to him or other guys from that track there, he's also in the same track with like what's Kula's first name? Brian Kula and a lot of these other speed and guys. They're kind of all in the similar, they all have differences, but they're all in the similar camp that, training more explosive movement, speed stuff, and doing that the right way, trains the CNS to not be shocked by not to get drained in the performance avenue in the game. So one of the things that I would say Tony would argue is that, like, for example, Derek's team didn't cramp, the other team did, right? Okay. They are implementing some, I'm not saying all the things, but some level of what Tony talks about from that standpoint. Am I correct to say that, Derek? Yeah. I've completely implemented as much as I can with my youth team. And I have to say, like, even though we lost our first game, the one thing I thought was really good is we played really hard the whole time. I think we were a little bit outclassed at that time physically, but they played hard the whole time. They're playing fast the whole time, and they had no issues with like physical CNS. What they would say now is like CNS related stuff with cramping and those things. I'm not sure if my young kids are hydrating properly or not. I don't know about that, but I thought that was interesting. Is there a is that stuff that you work with? Do you work with like the performance guys in strength and conditioning and speed and try to balance all those kind of things? Is that something that's real, like the CNS activation and the balance with that and the electrolytes?
Yes, 100%. Yes, I would totally agree as well with Tony that the muscle fatigue is a huge contributor of cramping. So, and that has to do with the CNS and like the firing of neurotransmitters and making sure our muscles everything plays a part. So It's the whole body, and it's not just nutrition. It's not just athletic training. It's not just strength and conditioning. It's like everything has a part. So it's super important that we all work together. So 100%, I worked so closely with my strength coaches over the years, and even with our high school athletes, or if we work with a high school and partner with them, we work really closely with the performance team because it's so important to understand what they're doing each day. And so I actually, like, for example, in the summertime, we had specific workouts every, Tuesday and Thursday might be speed days, Monday, Wednesday, it changed. So I would actually sit down with the strength coach. He would tell me, this is the focus is speed, sprinting, and then this day it's more power, strength. And so the nutrition does change regarding that. So with sprinting, so I actually got my bachelor's in exercise physiology. So I wanted to be a strength coach and do nutrition on the side, and then decided to just change all that. But so basically in sprinting, you're firing more type 2 fiber muscles. And so the more you sprint, the harder you go, the more you're engaging more type 2 fibers. And so the thought is, the more we practice that, the less our muscles will fatigue over time. And so that's important. But also, type 2 fibers need more carbs and creatine than type 1. So that's another thing we have to think about when we're sprinting. So even like my sprinters are going to need more carbohydrates probably than my endurance runners, cross-country runners, just because of the muscle fibers they're using during their exercises changing. And so it all runs together and plays a part for sure.
That's so interesting, Derek. That's completely opposite back to the way people used to think back in the old days. They used to think that
100%.
all the distance runners need to load up on carbs. Like the old marathon, where
Right.
they would eat the pasta. They have the pasta night before the whole marathon. But it turns out that yes, they need some, but the sprinters need, because of the heavy level of depletion. So interesting. It's so interesting to me how that kind of all works together, and obviously, a lot of times, which falls apart at the high school level, is you're doing well at one element, but you're not doing the other element. Probably usually because of financial is my guess, right? Because at SMU, you have a silo that works together, and you all know what each silo is, and it's like, hey, you get done with this, you go to this, and you get done with that, you go to that. Whereas in high school, they get done with, the focus might be on speed or strength or both. And then, oh, wait, we don't, we don't like do the nutrition. My eyes were open many, many, many years ago. And I really didn't understand the level of it at the time. But when I was in, and it turned out it was the same way in Texas, but I was at a school in Louisiana that was following. It was one of the first ISDs there, and they were following the Texas model, and they had nutrition. They had creatine that they had available. They had protein available, like shakes available to the athletes out post workout and right out. Yeah, I was like shocked, and then then as I went to different places in Texas, they had the same exact thing, and a lot of these big schools. But yeah, they had it all set up right there where they could grab and go. And then remember we were implementing some of that right at RBR.
We tried.
Yeah. I mean, we just didn't have the exact resources to get as much as we probably needed. You know what I mean? Like we really needed replenishment all the time, but we were trying to implement some of those things without even having at the time the exact knowledge base that we now kind of have gathered from that. But we knew that was an important thing. Like, okay, you get out of your workout, you need to get something in the system to start to recover. And it definitely is hugely helpful. But it's really interesting stuff, because what you guys are doing, it's like it helps the athletes recover. It helps the athletes continue to perform and stay in the game. And obviously injuries, we don't want to, we want to avoid those as much as possible. And obviously nutrition's a large part of it. It's an often overlooked part of it, because, some either they don't want to take the time or don't have access to it, but there's some simple things that they can do from that standpoint. If you were to say, like, before I let you go, quick and dirty, I come out of the weight room as an athlete, or I just sprinted on the field, what are like 3 quick things I can do? Like I don't have access to a ton. I'm a kid that has modest means. Is grabbing a chocolate milk a thing that would really help me? What are a couple of things I can do real quick that can help me to stay in the path without having to get like all expensive on it?
Yeah, for sure. applesauce is literally amazing, and majority of athletes can handle that before a workout. So great carbohydrates, get great nutrients even too in applesauce, and it's not too expensive. And you can just have that in your backpack. So if you have a 4 p.m. practice, you can have it in your backpack all day and it's not going to go bad. And then afterwards, chocolate milk is like one of the best things that, because milk has so many nutrients in it as well. And these adolescent athletes are growing, they're hitting puberty, their bones need extra calcium. And so you're getting, extra nutrients in that chocolate milk that are going to be beneficial for your bones as well as your muscle. And then add an Uncrustable to that. So Uncrustables are super easy, cost effective, or just a regular PB&J that you can make at home. Those are just like 3 simple things I feel like anybody can grab and have prepared, and have that. It'd be perfect for them to replenish and repair.
Phenomenal stuff. Can't thank you enough, Madison, for coming on. Derek, do you have anything else?
No, that was great. Thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time. It's always good to get that. Like I said, I'm a big advocate for it because I think it's one of the most underrated things, yet it matters so much. I think it's, continuing to progress and become a bigger thing. But like you said, it's only going to help you as an athlete. Just anybody. Like what you put into your body is what gets used, and it's what makes you go. So you might as well do it the right way, or at least pay somewhat attention to it. So Madison, can't thank you enough for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. I'm so happy that I got to have the time to talk to you and your audience, and I hope someone was able to take something from it. And I just want to say also, like any parents that are listening, I think we talked a lot about schools and what they can provide, but really it starts at home. And so I just want, the parents to feel empowered and encouraged to reach out to a sports dietitian to get the help that they need for their athlete. Because we don't just coach the athlete, we coach the family. And I've had so many parents benefit from me talking to an athlete, but they learn even from it as well. And they start making habit changes and they start changing their life around. So it's not just about the athletes, it's about the whole family. We want everyone to be healthy. So I just want to put that out there as well. Like, we talked a lot about the athletes, but we also care about the family.
Awesome stuff. Madison, how can people reach out to you if they have any questions or want to reach out further?
Yeah, so definitely check out our website, www.nutritionwithwendy.com. If you ever want to contact us, you can find a contact form there. But then also social media. So NWW Coaching for Instagram or Twitter. But then my personal handle is Madison Troyer. You can find me and just reach out. Would love to hear from you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Madison. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks,
you too,
Madison.
guys.
All right.
Take
Have
care.
a great night. Bye.
Bye.
Great stuff as always. That's a team right there, huh? So they got another person too, I think, on
Yeah,
staff, right?
Sophie will be on next or a couple weeks whenever we can get her scheduled in. So it's just, dude, they kill it, right? And look, I just like the other part, like they're not trying to like sell you, right? They're just saying, look, these services are here to provide you. We can give you all the general knowledge and that'll probably be fine for you. But for those higher level, really want to like attention, like take it to you need the one-on-one coaching where we can literally break down what your body does, who you are, what sport you are, how old you are. Look, how many of us have some type of medical something where, like something with your body that needs its own separate, like they can dive into that and help you with all of that, So that's why I just think it's so good. I was so glad to have stumbled upon that, that group. They're so good. They work with every sport, male, female, adolescents, adults, you know what I mean? Like really ground floor up, and can really get you to that next level. Cause that might be the piece you're missing and you don't even know it. You know what I mean? Like that could be the last bit of whatever you need to squeeze out of what God gave you as an athlete. Like maybe it is what you're putting into your body that, takes you from a 4.7 to a 4.69. There's your scholarship. Who knows? Right. It could be, and if you're, neurotic about loving our sport, like we were, like you're going to eat whatever they tell you is, you know what I mean? Like, or what your body's going to do for you. So, I think it's such an interesting field to me too, because you know what I mean. Like there's so much I don't know if mental toughness is the word, but like you all have those cravings, and we would all love to eat everything that tastes really good whenever we want it and however much of it we want. But to get where we would want to go as an athlete, like sometimes that's part of the sacrifice you make. You make the sacrifice to practice all that time. You make the sacrifices to train that much. Like, make the sacrifice to eat what you're supposed to eat. And maybe, I just, that's something it's kind of the last bit of it that people don't really look at.
I think you're 100% right. I think when it all works together, I think it's interesting that you guys did not cramp. Yeah,
not one bit, buddy.
Yep, and obviously, I think that's one area that we've had amazingly less of an issue because I implemented this speed stuff right from the get-go and try to focus right from the get-go on that, and been adamant about less of the long-winded running stuff, and just focus on speed. And I think that look, the thing that Tony's right, and obviously Wendy's group is definitely onto. This is it's a long-term project, so you don't get results immediately. Like,
right.
You got to stick with the model and let it play out, and over time,
absolutely,
it makes a big difference. And I think even when you get out of your we're doing it in season, and you're doing it in season, and you're doing it out of season as much as you can as you lead up to the season, meaning the summer, right? But the
yeah. But what's nice is that
we're doing it too, right?
Right, because it's also nice too, like that our freshman football coach happens to be the indoor track coach and the track coach, right? So he's implementing it. So that's a lot of sports right within the building where that coach, and they're the weight room guys. Like, he's the weight room, the freshman football coach is the weight room stipend guy in the fall. So the athletes are constantly getting this approach, and it's extremely beneficial. Look, I was at the freshman game yesterday. There was no cramping in that game either. You know what I mean? So like, it's across the board when it comes to like they're looking at and the approach that it's about health first and availability, right? The best ability is availability. Like, look, you could look at it last night, those couple plays that those kids missed last night in that game from the opposing team could have been a game breaker, or it could have been the play that separated it from it. And because they were out with cramps, and that's in their head that now they go back into the game. How long before I cramp again? Right. Like, there's a whole thing to it. And it wasn't even like a thought that we were going to cramp. You know what I mean? Now look, it was definitely a cooler night here for opening weekend, right? It was a very nice night, but not too hot, not too cold, but like kind of right around that temperature you wanted it to be. But it still was a thing. And that first game is always you know what I mean? Like, when it comes to that aspect of it, because it's the first real full go, 4 quarters of ball, and we're implementing a new offense where guys are running a lot more now in offense in terms of routes and coverage, and it is what it is, and it worked out awesome. So whatever it is, and they fuel right, like, you know what I mean? Like, the nutrition aspect, we give them a meals that they don't, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of other places don't have, and it's important and it works. So I'm going to continue to preach it. Why wouldn't I?
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. It's the lid is off on some of the old things that were told, like, this is dangerous, not dangerous, and these things aren't even dangerous. But I wonder why it was always said that way. I guess people were, I don't know.
I also think, like, we talk about that all the time. It's like, you coach the way you were coached, you know what I'm saying? So guys, I don't know, even with the wealth of knowledge that's out there to go and get, they're set in their ways, right? And they just kind of do things the way they've always been done. And it's, no one's going to, a lot of people, maybe it's more so now than ever, but nobody was ever going to question the way that was. Or, how many times were your coaches talking about nutrition and hydrate? Like, that just wasn't part of the gig. You know what I'm saying? Just
Right.
like the strength and conditioning part wasn't always as big as it is now, or, you know, the mental side of things wasn't always as big as it is now. Like there's new things that help, you know, move the game forward. And this is part of it. Like part of it is eating right outside of, you know, your freaking pasta dinner on Thursday night or whatever the hell the meal they give you or shit, you know?
Right. That's 100% right. No, I know.
I wonder
And
if that's a Jersey thing, dude. I wonder if every team has like a pasta dinner on Friday night across the country.
I bet they do.
You think that's like a universal thing? Like, I don't know.
think so? You don't think so?
Maybe it's more like a cookout. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on where it was. Oh, Texas played last night, huh? Texas played.
Who?
Texas played last night.
University of Texas?
Yeah.
No, they open up with Ohio State, I thought, this weekend.
Oh, maybe they start this week. Oh, yeah, it's this weekend, Saturday. Saturday.
Yeah, big. This is big football. Rutgers won.
Yeah, it was close though. Close.
I know.
I wish. Whoa. I don't know much about Ohio, so I have no idea how good they are.
I don't know. You just hear Ohio Bobcat. You don't think Ohio State? I'll tell you that much. But
yeah, I don't. You know, it's hard to know early on if that's any indicator.
Of course, right? We don't know who's going to be good.
Yeah, and you don't know where they are, what stage they are at with their team per se.
See, that's where we look at things differently. Like, hey, this guy's only in year 2, you know. But now with the transfer portal, is that even a thing? Because you could flip a roster in a year.
I meant like
I'm interested to see like, I got you.
Yeah, like some teams are veteran teams; they mesh immediately, right? Some teams are. You know, you maybe have new kids or you have.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm interested to see West Virginia with Rich Rod taking over and, you know, 70 new players.
Yeah. And some people are really good. Like, some coaches are very good at that part.
Really good at that.
Like,
yes.
Like, it doesn't matter who the player is, they just mesh it in there. Yep. Some guys need to have players that they're familiar with and they do better with that. It's just everybody's personality, you know, it's what their personality is.
100%.
There are some guys that, don't need it. Like I would say Nick Saban likes to have guys that he has some level of familiarity with, and he'll develop
Absolutely.
them.
Correct.
Like he felt like he probably wouldn't. I think he would succeed no matter what, but he probably felt he couldn't succeed at the level he'd like to without being familiar. He liked having familiarity with his players, I think.
Correct. I agree.
Where some of these other guys are like, hey, man, I need a guy to do this, this, and this.
That's it.
Is that him at receiver? That's the guy? Good. He's there.
I feel like Mike Leach was like that.
Yes. Do I have these pieces? Are all these pieces available? Great. Correct. We'll be fine. If we're missing some of these pieces, maybe we're not going to be as good. But if you have all the pieces, I don't care what their personality is. Yep. As long as they can run this shallow route and figure out how to when to get across and when to sit down, and they have certain level of speed and certain level of athleticism, I'm going to work with it, you know, because the quarterbacks were like that too. I needed a quarterback that can do this, this, and this, and that's it. Anything beyond that, he did not need his quarterback to take off and run. You know,
correct.
Like, I don't even know if he would utilize that, even if he had it. You know, so
who knows?
Who knows? Whereas, like Lane Kiffin, who runs that kind of system, he does like having a quarterback that can run. Like he's like, you know what? That just adds another thing for me. Whereas I don't think Leach. You know, it's interesting.
I don't think he cared even who it was.
I don't.
Can this guy do this?
He's like, my quarterback. He's not gonna be running. His job. He's the point guard. That's it. Period. And he's not point guard in the style of Kenny Anderson scoring 20 points a night. He's point guard in the style of King Rice circa 1990, 2 points a game and 15 assists. That's what he needs. You know, it's like, but it's very interesting. She was really good.
Think about that. Think about being
choice, by the way, at playing volleyball and
cross country, and then running cross country in college. And then how about, you know, a coordinator getting a job at another place and saying, you're coming with me.
Yeah, right. Lashley. She must be good. That's the only thing I can think of.
And she SMU.
Yeah.
Right.
SMU.
Like that's legit. And kudos to her for getting out of Delaware. Not to offend Coach Blum. Sorry, Coach. But like, you know,
yes.
Good for her. She's like, I was out.
She was gone.
Later. Palm Beach Atlantic? Sure.
She's like, I can get out of this cold and this
small ass state.
This tiny state.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really, really good stuff. It's interesting stuff. It's interesting how these things all play.
I just can't even think about like if I was playing now with the access to like that stuff, how neurotic I would have been when it came to meals and things like that. Because if there's one thing that I know I was, and it was discipline when it came to if this is going to affect how I could play, because I didn't have that athletic ability to have any wiggle room of like, you know what I mean? Like I couldn't just make it up and be like, oh, my speed will be fine. Like, no, dude, like I had to be attention to detail with everything. So I couldn't even imagine like how neurotic I would have been when it came to the nutrition.
Yeah, I wish I knew more. Like all I knew is what I could gather. Like I took creatine, you know.
Yep, I did too.
I took supplements,
but not until like maybe junior year of high school.
I didn't take anything in high school. I think in high school I might take protein shakes. But
I only knew that because we had a coach that came in when I was like a freshman, and he was like a weight room guy and was like, hey, you need to be putting some of this stuff in your body. And it was like, okay. Like my parents didn't know any of that stuff either. So they just went off what the coach said, and it was like, okay. And then you started to see some of the benefits of it, and now you go, right? I think a part too, like that is the whole, when we say trust the process, part of that process too is, you know what I mean? Like if you want to bench 225, you're not gonna be able to just do it right away. You have to build up to it. Same thing with like nutrition. Like if you want to get somewhere, you're gonna have to constantly put something into your body, or, you know, eat right for a period of time. It's not just gonna happen snapping your fingers.
Yeah, and what triggered my question too with the nutrition part, like with respect to creatine, besides increased muscle and strength and reducing cramping and heat tolerance, concussion and spinal cord neuroprotection.
Yes, the brain stuff.
So which means now. This is because
there's one thing. Whew. I need all the help I can get.
I took creatine from the time I was probably a sophomore, I was taking it before UConn even gave it to us. So I was taking it on my own, and as well as 50. It made a big difference. I think maybe it made a difference. Maybe
you felt it. Yeah.
I don't know. It probably wasn't good.
Yeah, probably not.
It probably wasn't good that I took Fiverr on game day, but at the time. But compared to what these kids probably do now, it's probably not. Those things are probably nothing, you know. But
nothing. These guys rip like 7 monsters and be like, "I'm good." It's like, all right, buddy, I guess so.
Oh my god, crazy. But anyway, great stuff. And then
awesome, man.
And you probably have a nicer weekend now that you play on Thursday. So
yeah, I mean, I think it's a holiday, right? I don't know.
Detroit you coming on Monday?
We're coming in on my yeah. It'll be normal game week for us. The teachers start school on Tuesday. Kids go back next Thursday. So I think I don't know if that's late or that's not. I know, like, you know, my niece and nephew up north in Morris County, they started school yesterday. So I don't know. Did Troy start already or no? Next week.
Well, Catholic school.
Rock and roll.
We start later and end earlier.
I know, you pay all that money to not go to school.
That's it. Start later, end earlier.
Quality
All
over
right.
quantity, buddy. You got it. Like, do a quick Google search and see how many school districts across the country are going to now 4-day school days,
I
4 weeks,
did read
school
that.
4-day school weeks. Like, here's
I
what it
think
is.
it's a good idea.
I think it's a phenomenal idea.
I mean,
Quality over quantity, buddy.
yeah, you don't want kids dreading. Well, most of them do now, dreading school.
Absolutely, because they're
You know,
stuck in a classroom.
they're stuck in a classroom all day long. There has to be better ways.
Do better, educational system. Do better.
There has to be. I mean, you need some classroom, but there's got to be a mix of how you could do things.
100%.
All right, man.
Absolutely. All right, man. Talk later.